If you're just getting into videography or photography, you've probably heard the terms prime lens and zoom lens thrown around quite a bit. Now, what are the differences? What are the pros and what are the cons to both of these types of lenses? Well, let's first get into the differences. So to start, let me get into the simplest type of lens, and that is a prime lens. A prime lens is a lens that does not zoom. Now, lenses zoom by shifting the optics in the lens to adjust how much light is hitting the sensor. By creating a narrower field of view, you zoom the lens in. By making a wider field of view by adjusting the optics, you have a wider angle lens or a wider lens that can see more. So a prime lens does not have the capability to adjust the optics around to zoom. It is stuck at whatever focal length you have. And so if you have a 35 millimeter lens, it'll be 35 and you cannot get zoomed in farther or zoom out. Now, what does 35 millimeters mean? Well, it's just a measurement of how zoomed in your lens is. So 35 is on a full frame camera, pretty wide. That's what we're filming on right here. 50 on a full frame camera, that's 50 millimeters, is a pretty standard portrait lens. 85 is more zoomed in. Basically, the higher the number gets, the more zoomed in it is, and the lower the number, the more zoomed out it gets. So prime lenses are simple, no zooming. Zoom lenses, as the name suggests, can zoom. They can move the optics around in the lens to adjust the focal length. Common focal lengths for zoom lenses are 18 millimeters to 55, a 70 to 200, and a 28 to 70. For most beginners, you'll see 18 to 55 millimeters or a 17 to 50 for some of you out there. So then what are the pros and cons of having a prime lens versus a zoom lens? So let's start with prime lenses. The pros are that they are cheaper because they do not need as much engineering and as much material going into them to zoom in and out. It's just a couple of elements in a lens that make it super simple and it does its job. This also allows it to be sharper for the price. Lenses can be soft around the edges or they can be very sharp, and you generally want to get a lens that is very sharp, very crisp images. It'll look much better. And prime lenses, for a similar price, offer much sharper images. Now, prime lenses also have a couple more tricks up their sleeves. Aperture is how wide open the iris in the lens can open, and prime lenses often have a wider aperture than zoom lenses. And this will allow you to get much blurrier backgrounds in your images, allowing for a much more professional look. They also tend to be much smaller than zoom lenses because they are less complex. However, a downside is they do not zoom. They are stuck at one focal length, meaning if you want to zoom in, you either have to walk closer to your subject or put on a new prime lens, which can sometimes defeat the purpose of spending less on a prime lens because you might have to buy more of them. Now let's move on to the pros and cons of a zoom lens. Zoom lenses can zoom in and out. That is very helpful in many situations. However, that's about their only pro, because when it comes to comparing them to prime lenses, they are more expensive generally, they are less sharp for the price, and their apertures don't open up as wide. So if you're picking between a zoom lens and a prime lens, you need to consider if you need a sharp lens or you don't care too much about the sharpness, if you need a wide aperture or you don't care too much about a wide aperture, or if you need the capability to zoom in and out. If you need the capability to zoom in and out, well, you're pretty much stuck with a zoom lens. If not, a prime lens can often be a very, very good option. Now, despite what I've been saying, these patterns do not always hold true. Sometimes you can find some really good deals on very sharp, wide aperture zoom lenses, and sometimes there are some prime lenses that are utter garbage. It just depends on what lens is for sale, what deals you can get, and then most importantly, what the use case is. Please subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future videos, and comment down below and tell us what your favorite lenses are. And click right over here on a video that YouTube suggested. You should like it because YouTube suggested it. Now I know that and this also, aperture is how wide open the
Iris.
Yeah. That's what we